It started as a dumb game. One of those nights when the cold made everything feel sharper and louder. When your laughter fogs the air and your breath hangs between you and the guy who's been your best friend since you were teenagers. But lately, it's been different. We were at Caleb's cabin, just me, Ethan, and 6 of our old high school friends, ringing in the new year with cheap champagne, Bluetooth speakers, and a fireplace that hadn't worked right since 2009. Everyone was a little drunk, not wasted, just loose enough for things to slip out, for jokes to land a little too hard, for dares to start flying. "Midnight's in 2 minutes!" someone shouted. I was sitting next to Ethan on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, our knees touching because the cabin was packed and the couch was small. But we didn't move apart. "Better pick someone to kiss," Alyssa teased from across the room, already curled into her boyfriend's lap. "Tradition and all." "Oh, I don't know, maybe I'll kiss you, Caleb," Ethan called out, smirking. Caleb, half drunk and fully amused, held up his hands. "Only if Jake doesn't beat you to it." Everyone laughed. Then Ethan turned to me and raised an eyebrow. "You down?" I blinked. "Wait, what?" "One-time offer," he said, grinning. "New Year's kiss. You and me. For the memories." I laughed. Because what else could I do? It was Ethan, my best friend. The guy I'd lived with my sophomore year. The guy who once drove 4 hours just to pick me up after a breakup. The guy who always smelled like cedarwood and mint and made girls turn their heads on the street without even trying. We'd joked about this kind of thing before. Flirted in that safe, ironic, no-homo way that straight guys get away with. Except I wasn't straight. And lately, I wasn't sure about Ethan either. But still, I played it cool. "Yeah, all right," I said. "Let's make some poor choices." Everyone cheered. The countdown started. 10, 9, 8. I glanced at Ethan. He was already looking at me. 4, 3. He leaned in. 2, 1. We kissed. It was quick, not aggressive, not even all that deep, just lips on lips. But it was long enough to feel the way his breath caught, long enough for the noise in the room to fade to a dull hum behind the rushing in my ears. When he pulled back, his eyes searched mine for just a second too long before he grinned and turned to grab his drink, like it was nothing. I laughed and shook my head, pretending I hadn't noticed the way his hand brushed mine when he set his glass down, or how his leg stayed pressed against mine, even after everyone started moving around again. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Because when I woke up the next morning, he was in my bed, not just in it, under the covers, shirtless, his leg thrown over mine like it belonged there. My head was pounding, mouth dry, but the moment I registered, his arm draped across my chest, I sobered instantly. "What the?" I whispered, gently shifting. Ethan stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and when he saw me, he didn't flinch, didn't jump up or laugh it off. He just blinked and said, "Hey!" "Hey!" I echoed, voice dry. Did we?" He stretched, rubbing his eyes. "I don't think so. I crashed in here after you passed out, couch was taken. This was the only bed with space." There were 3 empty sleeping bags on the floor. I didn't say anything. Instead, I looked at him. Really looked. He looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Like this wasn't weird for him. But for me, my heart was pounding in my throat. The kiss was supposed to be a joke. This wasn't. The weird thing wasn't that he was in my bed. It was how normal he made it feel. Ethan stretched again, groaning lightly as he flopped onto his back, one arm still across my stomach. "You snore," he said, smirking up at the ceiling. I stared at him. "You didn't answer my question." He turned his head, finally looking at me. "What question?" "Did anything happen?" He blinked slowly. "No, just passed out." I waited for the punchline. The typical Ethan grin. A joke to diffuse whatever was thick in the air. But he didn't laugh, just held my gaze for a beat longer than I liked. "Cool," I said, pulling the covers off and sitting up. I'm gonna shower." He nodded and didn't move. I stepped into the hall and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath all night. My head was buzzing, and I needed cold water and distance. I didn't want to think about how his skin had felt against mine, warm and relaxed like this was just a thing we did. I didn't want to remember how easy it was to fall asleep next to him. The kiss was supposed to be a party moment, an icebreaker, a crowd pleaser. Instead, it was stuck in my brain like a song I couldn't stop humming. I stayed under the spray until my fingers pruned and my thoughts stopped racing. By the time I came back out, Ethan was gone. His side of the bed looked almost untouched. I found him in the kitchen, wearing the same hoodie from last night, hair messy, flipping pancakes like he wasn't part of the mental storm cloud hovering over me. "Morning," he said casually, as if he didn't wake up with his thigh over mine. "Coffee's still hot." I poured a cup, watching him carefully. He looked the same, acted the same, but something felt off, like I was the only one who remembered that kiss meant something. "Did you tell anyone?" I asked, not even trying to ease into it. He raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "You know, the kiss," Ethan shrugged. "Nah, why, are you embarrassed or something?" "No, I said too fast." He smirked. "You sure?" "Yeah. Just wondering if this is going to be a thing." "What, like gay now?" he asked, teasing but too light. "You think one kiss made me switch teams?" "That's not what I said." "Relax, man, it was a dare. We've done dumber stuff." "Not like that," I muttered, gripping the coffee mug too tight. He glanced at me, and for the first time, something in his expression cracked. It wasn't a smirk, it wasn't a laugh. It was quieter, almost thoughtful. "Okay," he said finally. "You're right," I looked up. "It wasn't just a dare for you." My stomach flipped. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not blind, Jake," he said, setting the spatula down. "I've known for a while. The way you look at me. The way you don't look at me when we change after the gym. I figured you'd tell me eventually." "And the kiss?" He shrugged again, like he wanted to seem casual but wasn't pulling it off. "I don't know. I thought it'd be funny. Break the tension or whatever." "You kissed me to break the tension?" I repeated. "That's stupid," he finished. "Yeah, I know." We stood there in silence. The smell of pancakes thick in the air. A pop song echoing faintly from the speaker in the living room, where the others were waking up, still laughing, still oblivious. "I shouldn't have climbed into your bed," he said quietly. "Why did you?" He hesitated. "I don't know. I guess it didn't feel weird." My chest tightened. "Well, it felt weird to me," I said, sharper than I meant to, waking up and not knowing what the hell happened. "Nothing did happen," he cut in. "I swear." I didn't respond. He looked at me like he wanted to say more. Then someone yelled from the living room, "Yo, Ethan! Where's the syrup, man?" He gave me one last glance, then turned away, grabbing the syrup bottle and walking off like nothing happened. Like he didn't just confirm every fear I'd been hiding under layers of bro jokes and late-night beers, I sat down at the counter, heart still thudding. Because the worst part wasn't that Ethan kissed me. It was that it meant something to me. And apparently, it didn't mean anything to him. The rest of that weekend was the kind of awkward you can't quite explain to anyone without sounding crazy. I kept telling myself to act normal, whatever that meant. But every time Ethan walked into a room, my body stiffened like a reflex. And he noticed. I know he did, because he started doing this thing where he wouldn't look at me for too long. He'd glance, maybe smirk, then find something else to do with his hands or suddenly need to refill someone's drink. We were avoiding each other in the same space, and no one else noticed. Saturday night, we played Cards Against Humanity around the coffee table, half drunk, half bored. At one point, Alyssa made a joke about hot best friends who should just make out already, and everyone laughed, including Ethan. He laughed loud, too loud. My jaw tightened, and I focused on my cards. Later, when most people had gone to bed or passed out, I went outside. The snow was still untouched in some patches, glittering in the porch light. I sat on the frozen wooden steps, pulling my hoodie tighter, needing air that didn't smell like beer and old firewood. I didn't hear the door open, but I felt when Ethan sat beside me. He didn't speak at first, just sat there, not quite touching but close enough to feel the heat radiating off his body. Finally, he said, "You're pissed." I didn't respond. He nodded like he expected that. I didn't mean to mess things up. You didn't mess anything up, I said flatly, eyes on the snow. You made something really clear. What does that mean? It means you kissed me because you thought it'd be funny, I said. Like I'm some joke you can play with. His head turned toward me. That's not what You think I haven't been dealing with this for years? I cut in, wondering how to handle having feelings for my best friend and pretending like it's all good. He was silent. You think that kiss was just awkward for you? I laughed, bitter. I've replayed that moment more times than I'm willing to admit, and not because it was funny. I didn't mean to. You keep saying that, I snapped. But you did it anyway. You kissed me, then climbed into my bed like we do that kind of thing. And then when I asked you about it, you laughed. Made it a joke. I'm not a fucking punchline, Ethan. It was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I didn't climb into your bed because it was funny. That made me turn to him. I didn't climb into your bed because there weren't other places to crash, he said, voice low. I did it because I didn't want to sleep anywhere else. I stared at him. He rubbed his hands together like he was cold, then ran one through his hair. Look, I don't know what I'm doing, okay? I'm not good at this stuff. I thought I was straight. I've always thought I was straight. But now you're not sure, I said, more accusation than question. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe. I didn't plan this. I didn't expect to like it. But I did. The wind cut through the quiet between us. You kissed me, Ethan, I said. You can't unkiss your best friend and expect everything to go back to normal. I know, he whispered, and I don't want it to. That stopped me. I've been thinking about it too, he said, looking away. Way before New Year's. I didn't think you felt the same. And even if you did, I figured it was safer to pretend I didn't notice, that it'd go away. Well, it didn't, he nodded. I need to know something, I said, turning fully toward him. That kiss? Was it just a dare, or was that you? He looked at me, really looked at me. And for once, there was no smirk, no easy out. It was me, he said. All me. I felt the tightness in my chest shift, not disappear, but loosen just enough to breathe. And now what? I asked. He shrugged, eyes still on mine. Now I'm scared shitless. But I want to figure it out with you. I didn't say anything, just sat there, breathing. He reached over, not grabbing me, just letting his hand rest beside mine on the icy step, barely touching. But this time, I didn't pull away. And this time, he didn't laugh. We didn't talk about it again that night. Not directly, anyway. We sat on that freezing porch step until our fingers went numb and our breath came out in thick plumes, barely speaking. But the silence didn't feel heavy like before. It was quieter, softer, like maybe we didn't need to fill it with noise to understand what was shifting between us. At one point, Ethan stood up and offered me his hand. I hesitated, but I took it. He pulled me to my feet and we didn't say anything as we went back inside. We didn't touch again, didn't kiss, didn't even sleep in the same bed. He went back to the couch and I climbed under my covers alone, but I laid there for a long time, eyes open in the dark, wondering what the hell this meant now. Because when your best friend kisses you on a dare and you realize it wasn't just a dare, what the hell do you do with that? By Sunday afternoon, most people had cleared out of the cabin. Some had early flights, some long drives back. Caleb gave us both tired hugs. Alyssa kissed my cheek and told me to text if things get spicy, which I pretended to laugh at. Ethan and I had driven up together, so we were the last ones to leave. The ride home was weird. Not bad, not tense. Just quiet. Like both of us were waiting to see if the other would crack first. He played music, lo-fi beats, which was unusual for him, and we made small talk about work and classes like none of it had happened. But even when I wasn't looking at him, I could feel the air between us buzzing with everything unspoken. We were halfway down the highway when he finally said, So, are we going to talk about this again, or are we pretending it never happened? I glanced at him. Which one do you want? I don't know. Both? Neither? I gave a tired half laugh. Yeah, same. I meant what I said, though, he continued. I want to figure this out, but I don't really know where to start. Figuring it out doesn't mean stringing me along, he frowned. I'm not trying to do that. Okay, I said. looking back out the window. So what are you trying to do? He tapped the steering wheel a few times. I guess. Be honest. That'd be new. That made him wince, and I regretted it instantly. Sorry, I added. That was a cheap shot. No, it's fair, he said. I've been confusing as hell. But it's not because I'm messing with you, Jake. I'm just scared. I nodded. I got that. I really did. So, he said, eyes still on the road. When we kissed, what did that mean to you? I swallowed. It meant I wasn't crazy. He glanced at me. Crazy how? For thinking there was something between us, I said. For years, I told myself it was in my head, that you didn't feel it, that I had to be the good friend, keep my mouth shut, not ruin anything. His jaw flexed, but he stayed quiet. So when we kissed, I continued, it felt like confirmation, like all that wanting wasn't one-sided. It wasn't. I looked at him. He licked his lips, eyes still focused forward. I've thought about it, about you, more than I want to admit. I just didn't know how to deal with it. Why now? He sighed. I guess I thought, if we kissed and it felt weird, we could laugh it off. Blame the dare. Move on. And if it didn't feel weird, he hesitated, then I had to deal with it. We were quiet again. Then I said, and now? He looked over. Now I'm dealing with it. I didn't respond, but something in my chest finally relaxed. The rest of the drive was easier. Still quiet, but not strained. Every so often, our arms would brush on the center console, and neither of us moved away. When we pulled up outside my place, I unbuckled my seatbelt, hand on the door, but I didn't open it right away. He didn't move either. You want to come in? I asked. He blinked. Yeah, I do. So he did. And it wasn't some big dramatic thing, no grand romantic moment. Just him, trailing behind me into my apartment like he'd done 100 times before, except this time, when I closed the door behind us, he turned and looked at me, and I knew. This time wasn't like before. I reached for him before I could think too hard, and he met me halfway. This kiss wasn't a joke, wasn't for an audience. It was quiet, intentional. A little uncertain, a little messy, but real. His hands cupped my face, unsure but steady. Mine grabbed the front of his hoodie like I didn't want to let go. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was chasing something impossible. For once, he was right there. He kissed like someone who wasn't sure if he was allowed to. Hesitant, almost cautious, like he was testing the water with his toes while the rest of him stayed dry. I felt the tension in his shoulders, the way his fingers curled just barely at the hem of my hoodie like he wasn't sure if he should be touching me at all. And I don't know what came over me, but I broke the kiss, not to pull away, not to stop him, but just enough to rest my forehead against his. You don't have to be scared of me, I whispered. He blinked slowly. I'm not. I pulled back just enough to see his face. You are, it's okay, but I'm not going to break you. He gave me this look, soft, vulnerable, like he wanted to believe me, but wasn't sure how. I'm not scared of you, he repeated. I'm scared of what this means. And there it was. I stepped back and gave him space, walking over to the kitchen counter just to keep my hands busy. You don't have to decide right now. I know. But you kissed me again. That wasn't a joke. He leaned against the wall near the door, hands deep in his pockets. No, it wasn't. Then what was it? He looked at me like he wanted to be anywhere else, but also like he knew he had to stay. I don't know how to want this and still be me, he said finally. I've never been with a guy, never even thought about it until... He trailed off, and I didn't push him to finish the sentence. Until me. I got it. I really did. I'm not asking you to label anything, I said, quieter now. I'm just asking you to be honest. With yourself, with me. He nodded, slow and quiet. Then walked over and sat at the kitchen table, resting his elbows on his knees. I keep thinking about high school, he said. How we used to fall asleep watching movies and you'd be on the floor and I'd be on the couch. And how sometimes you'd stay the night and I'd wake up and feel weird. Weird how? Like I didn't want you to leave. That made me pause. He glanced up, his voice almost sheepish. I thought it was just that you were my best friend, that I liked having you around. But then you stopped staying over as much, and I remember being pissed about it. like irrationally. I'd come up with reasons to get you to hang out longer, offer you rides. Say I didn't want to play video games alone. I chuckled under my breath. You were very persistent. I didn't know what that meant back then, he said. I just thought maybe that's how friendship works. I moved toward the table and sat across from him. Sometimes it is. But this wasn't just friendship, he said. Not for me. Not then. Definitely not now. I swallowed hard. So what do we do? He looked at me for a long second. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I don't want to stop. The silence that followed was different. Not full of questions this time, just answers neither of us had the words for yet. Eventually, I stood. Do you want to stay over tonight? He looked up. Yeah. We didn't sleep together. Not like that. I gave him some sweats. We brushed our teeth side by side like we'd done 100 times before. And when we crawled into bed, he pulled the blanket up to his chest and stared at the ceiling like he was afraid blinking too fast might mess something up. After a while, I turned to him. You good? He nodded. This is just new. I know. He turned toward me, his voice quiet. Can I hold you? I didn't answer. I just moved closer. He wrapped his arm around me, fingers pressing gently into my side like he was memorizing the shape of me. And I laid there, chest to his, listening to his heartbeat settle into mine. We didn't kiss again that night. But we didn't have to. The next morning, I woke up before he did. Not on purpose. My body just knew, like it was still on alert somehow, processing everything that had changed in the last 48 hours. I laid there quietly, listening to his breathing, slow and steady, his arm still slung lazily around my waist. I could have moved. Could have slipped out of bed and made breakfast or stared at my phone until he woke up. But I didn't. Because I didn't want to. I let myself just feel it for a minute. The warmth of him behind me. The soft rhythm of his chest moving against my back. The way our legs had tangled sometime in the night. And that's when I realized I wasn't scared anymore. Not of him, not of us, not even of what this meant. I was just there, and for once, that was enough. He stirred a few minutes later. I felt him shift, felt his breath change before he even said anything. Morning, he mumbled, his voice low and groggy. Hey. He didn't move right away. Didn't let go of me either. Just rested there like it was a perfectly normal way to wake up. You sleep okay? I asked. He nodded against my shoulder. Better than I expected. We laid there a bit longer before he finally pulled back and sat up, rubbing his eyes. His hair was a mess, his hoodie bunched up around his waist. And still, somehow, he looked good. He looked like mine. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly, voice quieter now. I sat up beside him. No? Do you? He shook his head, slow. Not even a little. I just don't know how to do this. You don't have to have it figured out yet. I want to, he said. I want to do it right. I don't want to screw this up. You won't. He looked at me, eyes softer than I'd ever seen. You're really not mad at me? I was, I admitted. Not just about the kiss. About all of it. About how long I had to pretend I didn't want more. But I'm not anymore. He exhaled, relieved. Good, because I want more too. I just didn't know how to say it. You kinda did, I said with a grin. With your mouth. At midnight. In front of everyone. He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, not exactly subtle, huh? Not even a little. We got dressed and moved around the apartment like it was a normal day, but it wasn't. Not really. Every glance felt charged. Every brush of our hands. Every sideways smile. It was like we were relearning how to be around each other. And yet, it felt weirdly natural. He helped me make coffee. Stole half my toast. Sat across from me at the kitchen table and told me about the dream he'd had. Some ridiculous scenario where we were trying to raise a kid in a haunted house. I'm serious, he said, laughing. You kept arguing with the ghost about boundaries. Sounds about right. When he finished eating, he stood there awkwardly for a second like he didn't want to leave. I should probably go shower, he said. Or, I offered, you could just stay. It's Sunday. You're really just gonna let me invade your whole weekend? I shrugged. You already did. He gave me a look. You sure this isn't too fast? I paused. Honestly? I've wanted this for a long time. It doesn't feel fast to me. It feels like we're finally catching up. That made him smile. I'm gonna go grab my bag, he said. Be right back. As I watched him head for the door, something settled in me. Like all those months of wondering, hoping, torturing myself over what-ifs, finally had a place to land. When he came back, hoodie slung over his shoulder and hair still messy, he gave me a look that said it all. This was real. It was happening. And neither of us was laughing anymore. The days that followed were slow and careful, like we were building something with fragile hands. We didn't tell anyone right away. There was no announcement, no group chat confession, no "you'll never guess what happened" texts. It felt too early for that, too close to the chest. Like saying it out loud might break the spell, but we kept seeing each other, not in secret, just quietly, naturally. He came over after class. I showed up at his place with takeout. We sat on opposite ends of the couch sometimes, knees brushing while we played Xbox, and sometimes we'd sit closer, legs tangled under a blanket neither of us acknowledged. Sometimes we kissed. Slow, searching kisses that always ended with one of us pulling back like we still couldn't quite believe this was real. We never rushed. That first week, he asked a lot of questions. Not out loud, but with his eyes, with his touch. With the way he'd linger after a hug or lean his head against my shoulder when we watched movies. And I answered by being there. Steady. Patient. Letting him feel what he needed to feel at his own pace. One night, we were walking back from grabbing dinner when he stopped suddenly outside my building. Jake? Yeah? He looked nervous. I don't really know how to do this. The boyfriend thing. I raised an eyebrow. Are you asking if we're boyfriends? I mean, are we not? I laughed softly. I don't know. You tell me. He was quiet for a beat, then said, I want to be. My chest tightened in the best way. Okay, I said, keeping it simple. Okay. I stepped closer, bumping his shoulder. Yeah, I've had a crush on you since you spilled a Slurpee on me sophomore year. I think I can handle being your boyfriend. He grinned, wide and stupid and so clearly him. God, that was the worst day of my life. It was the best day of mine, I teased. Finally got your attention. He rolled his eyes but didn't deny it. Things didn't magically become easy. We still had to figure out boundaries, what we were comfortable with in public, how to navigate friends who knew us as just Jake and Ethan, the inseparable straight best friends. The first time we told someone, it was Alyssa. We were all hanging out in her apartment, watching some mindless reality show. Ethan had his arm around the back of the couch, not touching me, but close enough. When she went into the kitchen to grab drinks, I followed her. She looked at me, narrowed her eyes, and said, Okay, spill it. I blinked. What? You and Ethan. Something's different. I hesitated for a second, then said it. We're seeing each other. Her face lit up. Shut the FCK up, I laughed. Dead serious. She shrieked so loud Ethan heard it from the living room. It spread slowly from there, a few friends at a time. No big social media posts. No need. Just little moments where we stopped hiding. Where he'd grab my hand at a bar or kiss me goodbye in front of someone for the first time. The first time he introduced me as his boyfriend, we were at a small party. Someone asked if we were roommates, and Ethan, without hesitation, said, Nah, he's my boyfriend. I nearly choked on my drink, but he said it so casually, like he wasn't afraid anymore. Later that night, he pulled me into the hallway and kissed me like he'd been holding it in all evening. Proud of you, I whispered. He smiled into my mouth. I'm proud of me, too. It was almost exactly a month after that New Year's kiss, when Ethan stayed over on a random Thursday night. Not because of any plans or party, just because he didn't want to go home. We were on the couch, half watching some dumb crime show he loved, when he turned to me and said, Do you ever think about how fast this happened? I tilted my head. Fast? I mean, it's been a month. But it feels like everything's different. It is different, I said, but it's not fast. Not for me. He gave me that look again, the one he'd started using more and more, the one that said I'm listening, even when I don't know how to respond. I ran my fingers along the inside of his wrist, a quiet habit we'd both picked up without talking about it. It might feel fast for you, I said, but I've had a head start. He nodded slowly, processing that. Then, quieter. Sometimes I still wake up and forget this is real. Is that a bad thing? No, he said, shaking his head. It's just new. I keep waiting for it to feel scary. Or complicated. And? It doesn't, he said. It just feels right. We didn't kiss after that. Didn't need to. He laid his head on my chest, and we sat there like that for the rest of the episode. His hand resting on my stomach, mine in his hair. Just quiet. Still. Okay. A few weeks later, we went back to Caleb's cabin for a low-key weekend, with just a few close friends. Different vibe this time. More board games, fewer dares, and zero jokes about who would kiss who at midnight. On the last night, we ended up outside again, like we had after the party. This time, no snow, just chilly night air and a few empty beer bottles between us. He bumped my knee with his. You remember what you said last time we were out here? Which part? That I didn't have to be scared of you. I smiled. Still true, he nodded. I'm not. Not anymore. Good. He paused, watching the sky. Then, I think I love you. It wasn't some dramatic moment. He didn't look at me when he said it. Didn't build up to it with some speech. He just said it, like it had been sitting in his chest for weeks and finally found its way out. I didn't say anything right away. I just reached over and took his hand. He looked down at our fingers, then up at me. I love you too, I said, because I did. Because I had for longer than I'd admitted, even to myself. He leaned in and kissed me. Not like he was unsure, not like he was testing anything, but like he knew. And this time, no one cheered. No countdown, no dare, just us, just a kiss, not a joke. Not something we could laugh off in the morning, something real, something we were finally ready for.